Let's let everybody in. You start the music.
Let's do it.
Oh,
Nice. Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Veterans Breakfast Club. I am Todd DiPastino, the Executive Director of the Veterans Breakfast Club, beaming to you from a two-star hotel in Somerset, PA. And I've been in worse. I've definitely been in worse. And tonight we're doing World War II open conversation. Glenn Flickinger is our normal host, but because I'm a diva, I demand some. That's my screen time, and now I'm throwing it to Glenn.
I didn't know you were a diva. Is
Yeah,
that
big time.
really? Is it? Yeah. And I didn't know there were any two-star hotels in Somerset, PA. They were all half stars. So,
Oh, you just gave Barb a heart attack.
gave who a heart attack?
Barb.
Barb,
What?
like that. Well, anyway, welcome tonight to Greatest Generation Live, all things World War II, and open conversation on World War II. Besides open conversation, we are going to reprise, reflect on our recent trip to the European battlefields, the sort of Band of Brothers tour that we took, Todd and I, along with 20 some of our great friends. Some of them became great friends during the course of the trip. And we had a lot of fun. We saw a lot of stuff. I think it was 7 countries in 15 days, as I recall. Somebody said 8 if you include the 5 minute sort of little strip of Austria that we went through. Is that right, Todd? How many?
Yeah, I think it was 6 countries, 7 if you count the 8 minutes we were in Austria.
Okay, okay. But it was, for me, it was another trip of a lifetime. This makes 3 trips of a lifetime in a row the past 3 years I've been on. And we got another trip of a lifetime coming up next year, which we'll start talking about soon once we finalize the itinerary. That's going to be to Sicily and Italy for the World War II battlefields there. So we got a lot to talk about. We have some World War II vets on tonight, and I think we want to at least start with them, don't we, Todd? And make sure we recognize them. You mentioned Russ Freeberg. Is Russ on?
I did see Russ, yes.
Let's let's unmute Russ. I have a picture for Russ.
Let me see here. Where is Russ? Russ Freeberg.
I have a photo I want to show Russ. I don't see him myself.
I'm having
He
trouble
was
finding
on.
him myself, unless he
He
fell
was
off.
on. He must have fallen off. Oh, darn. I hope he comes back. Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, no. He's right below Barb. Okay. Thank you, Barb. That was extremely helpful. Hey, Russ.
I I am having trouble getting in.
Well, you are in.
You are in.
I can see you both. Yeah. And you said you had a photo to show me.
I do, Russ. I do, Russ. And when I saw this at one of the 8 or 9 different World War II museums we were at, and I cannot remember which one it was, I immediately thought of you, Russ. For those of you who don't know Russ, World War II veteran, 102 years young. Russ, have you turned 103 yet?
5 months.
5 months. Okay. We're not going to rush that. Let's not rush that. 102. And he's been on the program several times. Scott Masters, I imagine he's on tonight, introduced us to Russ last year sometime or early this year. I can't remember. Russ was a member of the 8th Armored Division and one of the armored infantry battalions of the 8th Armored. Which battalion was that, Russ?
49.
49th. Okay. And if I can do this here, let me see. I guess first I got to share my screen. So forgive my lack of technical capabilities here because I don't have my normal PowerPoint. I just have some photos I want to show. And that's not where I want to show it. I want to show it over here. Let me go back to my Zoom. Okay. Now I'm going to share screen and show Russ the ride that he had for the last 7 or 8 months of World War II, or at least something approximating it. Is that about what you were in, Russ? Are you seeing that? Did I screw up?
No, yeah, I see the half track
Yes.
with a Brit soldier in it.
Yeah. That was the unfortunate part of it. Had a British soldier in it rather than a U.S. soldier. And I'm not sure that's exactly the model half track you were in. In fact, I don't think it is because the picture you had shared with us back when you were on our program, it was a half track with a 50 caliber gun mounted on top.
Yeah,
Right?
that looks smaller than ours.
Okay. Well, Russ, I just want to make it clear that when I saw this, I immediately thought of you and took a shot and had intended to send it to you, but I never got around to it. So I'm glad you're on tonight. And I just wanted to show this to you. I don't know if that brings back some memories or not.
Was that in the World War II Museum in Normandy?
That's fine.
No, I think this was the one. Any of our travelers try to remind me. This was the one in the Netherlands.
Yes.
Does anybody recall? Todd?
Yes, I recall. It absolutely was the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is maybe why it had the Brit there because the number of vehicles that we saw was tremendous in all these different museums. And, it reminded us that at the end of the war, the U.S. Army basically just left all its vehicles in place in Europe as we demobilized. The men left, but the machines didn't. And the militaries there picked up those machines and used them for a while. And then as they, aged and were no longer of use, the museum started obtaining them and putting them on display. So, Russ, I'm sorry it wasn't a U.S. Version of what you were in, but it was pretty close.
Very close.
Yeah.
Yeah. We replaced the British 7th Armored Division in St. Odilienburg, Holland, in January, I think, of 45, when we transferred from the 3rd Army to the 9th Army.
Okay. So Russ, it's nice to have you on. And as we talk more about some of the questions that are going to come up, please jump in and give us your point of view. Okay.
Okay.
And then I also see we have, and I'm going to unmute him, Arthur, and I'm going to mispronounce his name again, Doug.
Yes.
Gabiner. Gabiner. Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Arthur. How are you?
Moving along. We'll keep the peace.
Okay. For those of you who might remember, Arthur was on one of our programs, I think late last year.
No, this year, April.
Was it April of this year? Okay, I'm sorry. It all sort of, for me, we do so many of these programs, it all melds into one. Arthur is a U.S. Navy veteran, Okinawa campaign, the Philippines, as I recall, too, Arthur.
Yes.
Yes.
And when he saw that we were doing open conversation on World War II, Arthur and his son, Doug, who's off to the side there, sent us an email and said they'd be on tonight. So welcome. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Arthur, you are how old now?
99.
100. When are you going to be 100?
on December 11th.
So you're just a kid, relatively speaking.
Yes,
World War II vets, 99.
yes. With the other participants, yes, I'm a kid.
Well, we're really happy to have you, Arthur, and you'll forever remain a kid in our minds.
My pleasure.
And why don't we just start off with a couple of questions that Arthur posed for us tonight. Doug or Arthur, do you want to pose those questions, and we'll do our best to try to answer them and get the audience to volunteer any thoughts.
Okay. So question number one, of the approximately 16.4 million Americans who served in the U.S. Armed Forces during World War II, how many are estimated to currently remain alive in September of 2025?
Yeah.
Good question.
Good question. I did some research, and I have 2 or 3 answers for you. I don't know that there's a definitive answer. It's awful hard to come down to the exact number, but even the ranges surprise me. Anybody want to volunteer? Any thoughts on that before I tell you what I found online? I just looked it up online, nothing more than that.
Yeah, well, you cheated, but Barb Smith says here 20,000.
I saw Rich has his hand up.
Tim Little says 10,000.
Rich, I'm trying to unmute you.
All right. The last I looked at it was 660,000. Remember, it's World War II era, not just World War II. So you get a little. Yeah, I know.
Well,
How many did you say?
I said 60,000.
That's what I had seen earlier this year, according to the VA,
That's what I was.
about 66 to 61,000. So to put that in perspective, if it's in the 60s, that's little more than 1/3 of 1%, which means for most Americans, should they be in the veteran community, the next time they meet a World War II veteran, should they be so fortunate, maybe the last time they'll meet a World War II veteran.
Could be. Rare to find living World War II veterans. The number I saw on the Department of Veteran Affairs website was 45,000 odd. That obviously changes week to week, and but obviously very, very few. So here's a question for you. When did the last Civil War veteran pass away? What year?
Great question.
Even just give me a decade. I'll be satisfied with that.
1959.
In the right decade, a little bit earlier.
Okay.
Anybody else? It's a all expenses paid weekend in Kansas City.
Where I am. You can have my room.
At the
Have my room.
1-star hotel in Somerset, Pennsylvania.
35.
So someone look it up, but I'm pretty sure the date was 1956 or 7, something like that. 112-year-old person who had been a drummer boy in the Union Army, in the Army of the Potomac. Right. So, there was also on the Department of Veteran Affairs some estimates as to how many vets will be left over the next couple of decades. And obviously the number goes way down, but the last vet is expected to live into the 2040s, I believe it was. So.
No way.
No. Last vet of World War I passed away. Anybody remember his name or his circumstances? Yeah, Todd? Anybody else?
I'm sorry I don't want to, I just happened to know it because I had an opportunity to meet him and I did not meet him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm really kicking myself.
Yeah.
He died, I believe, in 2012. His name was Frank Buckles. He lived in West Virginia. He died at age 100.
You froze on us, Todd. I'll finish.
Freeze on you. Oh boy.
You froze on us, Todd. Was it 112? Yeah. So anyway, yeah, kind of unfortunate, but inevitable statistics, right? That we have to face. We're so pleased to have two World War II vets on tonight, and actually to know as many as we do, and to have had so many World War II vets on this program, not just this program, but going back to Todd's for the last 20 years. So the second question, Doug, that you and Arthur posed, which
Thank you.
Fascinating.
Thank you. So, Dad speaks to students in schools. He's an active volunteer on the Intrepid Museum here in New York City, most recently as 3 weeks ago on VJ Day. And it's been disheartening to him that too many students failed to realize that World War II was waged in the Pacific Theater, and those who did had very limited knowledge. Some thought World War II was waged exclusively in the European theater. And this is a problem. There's a historical illiteracy concerning World War II in the Pacific theater, from the media's perspective, from those that returned to the battlefield. Why do you believe that this historical illiteracy regarding World War II in the Pacific theater exists?
Great question.
Really good.
I don't know that I have a definitive answer. I have some thoughts. I did look up one statistic of the literature written about World War II in English. What percentage of those books are on the Pacific theater versus the European theater? Again, you get the answer right, you're welcome to join Todd in Somerset for an all expenses paid weekend.
So these are how, like, of the books written about World War II in the English language.
Yeah.
What percentage are written about the European theater? What percentage are written about the Pacific theater?
Hey, but all I did was, Google it and get
Go with that.
Chat.
I like his answer.
Oh, Bob Lochner, my brother that I lost at birth and rediscovered on our trip to Europe. Bob Lochner, that's exactly what I would have guessed.
Is that in the chat? I'm sorry, I wasn't following the chat.
75%.
Yeah. And again, it's estimates, but what I read was as much as 80% European theater, somewhere between 70 and 80% European theater, and somewhere between 20 and 30 Pacific theater. Okay. But the better question is why? Why so much emphasis on the European theater versus the Pacific theater?
Why would that be? I mean, I would guess, bias towards Europe.
May I offer an answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you look at the media coverage, when World War II veterans of the European theater return to Europe, those trips are plentiful. They're treated like conquering heroes, liberators, be it in France, be it in Belgium, be it in the Netherlands. When a World War II veteran returns to the Pacific theater, if he goes to Iwo Jima, all that's there is volcanic ash. If he goes to Okinawa, it's Japanese. Dad was in the Philippines this past February, the first time in 80 years, probably the last time a World War II veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces will ever set foot on Philippine soil. It is not, you don't receive the same greeting, you don't receive the same media coverage, it's just too far away. So the media coverage lends itself to the European theater.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable answer. I think there's multiple reasons, but that's a good one, Arthur. Good one. Others?
Yeah, Colin says I have an answer, and I'm trying to find Colin to unmute him. Here we go. Oh, there he is. Hey, Colin.
Hey, Colin. I haven't seen you in so long. I've forgotten what you look like.
Yeah, I've been real busy with these film projects and stuff, and of course, a hurricane blew my internet out a month ago. So,
well, we've been away a lot too. So,
yeah, as a history professor at 3 different universities, I can tell you my opinion as to why kids know so little about World War II in general and so little about World War II in the Pacific. And what Mr. Grabiner just said is absolutely true. It's too far away. There's not really that much connection to American society, to the Japanese culture, to the Asian culture as compared to the European culture. We have a lot more interaction even today with the Europeans than we ever did with the Asian countries. But I think a lot of it is probably myopic because so many people today, if you were born in 1970, well, if you were born in 1975 to 1980, you're not learning history in American public schools. And I know this because I went to British schools as a kid and we had in-depth history, in-depth. It was beaten into us. Then I came back to the States to go to high school and it was like these people had no clue. And I was light years ahead in my reading and knowledge than my contemporaries, even some of my teachers for that matter. So I think it's a matter of history being sidelined for more important stuff. In the recent years, it's been, well, we won't discuss the wokeism aspect of it, but let's just say that their priorities were not upon education. A lot of my students, when I used to teach a class, I would give a map of Europe, a map of the Pacific, a map of Africa, or US, depending upon whatever course I was teaching. And the maps would be blank with borders, and each place would have a number, and in the right-hand column would be a straight line, and I would say, what country is number 1, what state is number 24, whatever. Less than maybe 5% of my students got half that right. And the ones who did were like, savants. So they're not really being taught history in public schools. Reading and writing and mathematics have suffered over the past decade or so. That's why they're not being taught.
But Colin, if I may add, it's especially disheartening because unlike when you or I were youngsters, today every youngster has a computer in the palm of his or her hand.
That's true, but I don't think technology makes you smarter. It makes you dependent.
You're right. It doesn't teach you how to think.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Bob, thank you, Colin. Bob Van Bargen had a good point as well. Bob, you want to make that point to us? I'm looking for you to unmute you. Todd, if you find him before I do, please unmute him. Why can't I find Bob? There, nope, I got a different Bob.
We have too many Bobs.
Hey, Bob, you got to get some different
You got to
names.
change the names.
Wave your hand, Bob. Van
There
Bargen.
we go.
There you are. Okay. I asked him to unmute.
There we go. Well, in the years prior, leading up to the war, you had a huge contingent of correspondents that were covering Europe, comfortable in Europe, and the number that were in the Pacific in comparison, was relatively few, and so consequently, they went where their companies told them to go, and covering the war in the Pacific is pretty tough. Having spent a good deal of time traversing that area, there's a long distance between places where you can rest your head.
Yeah. Getting around the Pacific is, having flown to Korea to visit my daughter years ago while she was teaching there. It's a long way.
Dad, during World War II, how many nautical miles did you travel?
60,000.
Wow.
Wow.
A lot of sailing.
Let's get the point of view of a Canadian here. That the only Canadian I know on this call is Scott Masters. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing well, and I should point out I'm a dual citizen. I am both Canadian and American, but living in Toronto these days.
Okay. But you teach at a Canadian private high school.
Yep.
What would you think the answer is relative to World War II education in general and specifically the coverage of the Pacific?
Well, from the Canadian perspective, the Pacific War was pretty small, so it's not something that enters into our curriculum in a big way. I happen to cover it, as a matter of interest, and it's been so great meeting with a lot of you guys, Russell included, and getting the students to hear about that kind of perspective. But I can tell you, looking at provincial curriculum documents and all that kind of thing, there's still a lot of emphasis put on it. For my grade 10 history course, which is the big required one, I spend about a month or so going through World War I and then a month going through World War II. I've kind of made them the key parts of the courses, and the kids really are interested in it. And Colin, you'll be happy to know that I give them maps of everything and force them to learn it as well.
Yeah. Let me ask a question of Russell Freeberg. Russell, I've asked you to unmute again, if you could unmute. There you go, Russell. So Russell, you're fighting for your life in the European theater in 1944, 1945. Did you follow the events in the Pacific theater? Was that of any importance or significance to you while you were fighting in the European theater?
My recollection is that we knew very little about what was going on in the Pacific, except Corregidor and the island hopping, and then, of course, the atom bomb eventually.
Yeah.
Russell, were you led to believe that you were going to be transferred to the Pacific Theater?
Well, that was the common thought after Germany surrendered, that we would be moved to the Pacific. Of course, the Pacific did not lend itself to armored divisions, so we would have been in an infantry division in the Pacific. And they've started to deactivate the armored divisions very soon after the surrender of Germany.
Yeah. So here's a historical fact that I'll share with everybody. I don't know how many would know this. So the U.S. Navy during World War II, the U.S. Navy was not early in the war looking for publicity. Okay, the Marines were. The Marines were really good at it, but not the Navy. To the point where Admiral Ernest King, the head of the U.S. Navy, was advised by his publicity people, right, that he needed to cozy up to more reporters. So I don't have the date in mind because it just came to my mind as we were talking, but sometime in 1943, so at least a year and a half, maybe even going on 2 years after the war started, he started meeting off the record in his home, or not his home, but on board the ship that was his headquarters during the war in the, I think the Navy Yard there in DC, with half a dozen or eight national reporters to talk about the Navy role in the Pacific, and it was all off the record. And that was his way of trying to promote the interest of the Navy during World War II. So point is, even during the war, the Pacific was, let's say, underreported, right? Yeah, and Bob Van Barken says King was the last man to cozy up to anyone. True, but Bob, give him a bottle of whiskey, he might get cozy after a while. So maybe it's the wrong term. Okay. Colin has a colorful comment, which I'll let you read in the chat. But it took some persuasion to get him to go through with this. But once he did, as I recall the readings from wherever sources I read this, he came to like it and was comfortable in talking to these reporters. So
there was a whole discussion and debate over how the press should cover the war. And King was on the side, if I recall, early in the war when he was asked about it, he said, we should say nothing to anybody about the war and just when it's over, tell the American people who won.
Exactly. Yes.
There should just be a media blackout the entire war.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as the war wore on, that became problematic relative to the long-term interests of the Navy, but also it became problematic relative to the support from the population, that you had to inform the population to justify these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of casualties that started coming in as the war wore on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that was I mean, people were upset about everything. They were upset about their loved ones being sent overseas and not knowing where they were. They were upset about rationing. They wanted life to go back to normal. Yeah, and so a lot of the publicity about the war was geared towards keeping the American people engaged.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And now, 80 years later, the emphasis is on the Pacific rather than Europe.
What do you mean by that, Doug?
Well, the pivot is toward where emerging confrontations may occur more likely in the Pacific.
Specifically China.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
In current events, yes.
Yes, 80 years later. Yeah.
Bill Boswell, Bill, if you'd like to unmute, you can make this point yourself.
And also, Justin Miller has his hand up.
Okay. Let's go with Justin Miller and then Bill.
The comment I make, I've been going out to Hawaii to several different organizations for a number of years, especially the Aviation Museum on Ford Island. And in talking to World War II veterans and being an escort from time to time, the war was horrendous enough for most World War II veterans not to talk about it too much. But the ones from the Pacific, it was maybe a tenfold more stressful event in the way that the war was conducted, how people got killed, how ferocious the Japanese were. And I think that's part of the stories didn't come out for a long time. The other organizations like the USS Midway, the Aviation Museum on Ford, through their education programs, have started putting more information out about the war in the Pacific. And I seem to believe you're right. It has changed the dynamic. Today, we've got China, North Korea, we've got that part of the world coming more to the event, and it's coming more to the forefront.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best I can do.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good.
Rick Erisman chimes in. Justin, Rick is very envious of your cork collection there on your table.
Well, if you're ever in Dallas, we do virtual wine tastings out of Cortona, Italy, several times a year. And we'd be more than happy to have you over. The next one is December the 6th, I think. And it's Barolo and Brunello wines.
I'm sold. I'm there.
That's a spittoon in the background.
Well, the big thing is I can't come to any of your stuff in Pennsylvania. I'm just too far away.
Yeah.
Bill Boswell, I unmuted you. Would you?
Okay.
Very good one.
Two things. First, the psychology. You needed to have the public support the war, as you say, with respect to all the buildup of casualties. The other thing to keep in mind is they had to pay for the war. So you had all these war bond drives, and if you didn't let people know that you needed the money to conduct the war, they were not going to follow through on that. I've got a poster in my office that shows the 7th war bond drive, and it's a photograph of the Marines putting the flag up at Mount Suribachi. So that was a big deal too. It was psychology and it was money.
Yeah, in fact, there's a great scene in the movie Flags of Our Fathers, if you recall, where it's not a combat, it's not a war scene. It's actually I can't remember the character, but he was somehow associated with U.S. Treasury, and he was taking these two or three flag raisers around on a bond raising tour. And they were complaining because, it's a pain in the wazoo to go through with all that. And there's a great scene in there where I can't remember his words and probably can't repeat them all on this show, but he basically said, look, if we don't go raise this money because we're running out of money, your buddies back in the Pacific are going to be throwing rocks instead of hand grenades
I
at
remember
the
that.
Japanese. And we forget that aspect of the war. We have a guest coming on in, I believe it's late November or December. I'm just finishing his book now. It's called The Wounded Generation by David Nassau. And I'm almost done with the book, Todd. I know you're going to have him on as well in January. And boy, is it excellent because it talks about the coming home of the World War II generation, the Russell Freeburgs and the Arthurs of the world, um, and the difficulties that were faced by all of them in terms of reacclimating themselves and the attitude that the public even had about accepting all these veterans back. He really strips away all the mythology that is out there about, the late 1940s and 50s, that it's not nearly as romanticized as the movies of that time made it look. Russell, do you have Russell or Art? Do you have memories of coming back in 45, 46, whenever it was you got back to the States that you'd like to?
Memories of returning home in 46? Do you have?
Couldn't wait to get home.
Well, I can tell you from what he shared with me, his welcome home from the Navy. So you brought the ship back through the Panama Canal.
That's correct.
To Norfolk.
Norfolk.
The Navy sent you on a railroad to New York City, the Brooklyn Navy Yard briefly, and then they sent you to Nassau County on Long Island.
Right.
And your welcome home from the Navy after receiving your honorable discharge was a pass to take the Long Island Railroad from Long Island to Manhattan and a nickel home to take the subway.
That's correct.
Yeah. Russell?
Yes. On coming home? Yeah. It was rather low key. If you wanted to talk about the war, you had to find another veteran. My parents never asked me about anything in the war. If I wanted to say something, okay, but they never questioned me on what I did, where I went, and that was kind of what it was like with all the people in Galesburg, Illinois, where my parents lived, and I returned home. They let you talk about the war if you wanted to talk about it, but they weren't going to question you.
Did either of you have difficulty finding work, a job, when you first got back? Were you worried about that as you were returning back to the States?
Well, I was going to return to college, and I knew that. But it so happened that the timing of my discharge, I couldn't start at Washington University in St. Louis until the summer session.
Yeah.
So what did I do? Oh, I worked at the YMCA some. An old friend of mine was now the director of the YMCA in Galesburg. And I worked there some on the desk, but and I took a couple courses at Knox College in Galesburg. One on religion, I remember, and another one where the former ambassador to the United States from Czechoslovakia had a seminar course that I took. So that's how I filled my time. But I suppose the most important thing was I met my wife during that period. And we were married in December of 46. And she worked as a service representative for Southwestern Bell while I finished college.
And,
Russell, where was this picture taken?
I have no idea.
But that is you, correct?
Yes, that's Jack Christian, my best friend. He was the assistant machine gunner in our platoon. I think that was taken after we crossed the Rhine. I'm pretty sure of that. It was taken after we crossed the Rhine. And obviously we were
This is burning.
not moving that day. We were holed up somewhere.
Great picture, Russ. Great. And Arthur, your experience when you first got back in terms of, say, finding work or even
Well,
like a lot of vets had a lot of trouble where there was a huge housing shortage at the time.
I had to wait 6 months before I could go to school. They didn't accept Pace University.
Regular tea
And
with milk in it.
had to wait to go for the next session.
Well, when did you arrive home? May 46.
May 1946.
And you went on the GI Bill to college?
Right. In
It's early 47.
1947.
And how many years did it take you to complete? 3 years?
Oh, 3 years.
But you mentioned though when you graduated business degree. Well, most of the students in faculty were turning World War II vets.
They certainly were, and it was difficult to get a job. I went to an office building, top to bottom, knocking on doors and everything. It was difficult. It took me months to get a job.
When we have David Nassau on, I'd love to have the both of you back on, and any other vets we can find. Bob Oles put something in the chat here about a lot of vets took advantage of the 52-20 club, which meant you got $20 a week for 52, or $20 a week for 52 weeks just by registering. You didn't have to prove much of anything. The GI Bill is a fascinating topic in and of itself, maybe one of the greatest pieces of social legislation ever passed. And I frankly never knew, I've not really ever read much about it, but in the book, and we'll wait for the author to come on in a few weeks' time, that was quite a political battle to get that passed. And it took several forms and several years before what we think of today as the GI Bill was passed. And it'll be fascinating to hear David Nassau speak about that.
Yeah. And we remember the GI Bill mostly for the education housing provisions, but the 52-20 was by far at the time the most popular element of the GI Bill.
It was actually a separate piece of legislation passed before the actual GI Bill was passed.
Oh, really? So it wasn't part of the GI Bill?
Well, it became folded into it, but
okay.
There's like 3 or 4 stages of legislation leading up to finally what was the GI Bill, because there was a huge raging political debate. I mean, we like to think we're in a huge raging political debate today, which we are, but there was a huge debate even before the war about what benefits were going to be given to who once the war ended.
Russell? Russell, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question. When you left the United States and were sent to Europe, do you recall if your last stop was Camp Shanks in New York State?
No, it was Camp Kilmer.
Okay. Because in New York State, in the lower Hudson Valley in Rockland County, majority of U.S. service members who were shipped off to Europe, that was their last stop.
Last stop,
All right.
U.S.
No, Camp
Shanks.
Kilmer.
Okay.
I went through Camp Kilmer.
Susan Friedberg has had her hand up for a while here.
Yes, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. It's an honor to be amongst all of you. And I can't believe 101, 98. It's just
99.
beautiful. It's God bless you. And just God bless all of you. It's just amazing. And Mr. Grabiner, when you speak, your voice sounds like my daddy. You're making me miss him so much. I just feel like you're channeling Bernie or something. It's just, you sound just like my daddy. So what I wanted to say was that when Russell said that he couldn't talk to people, I mean, how can you talk to civilians that were here and only had news coverage? They knew really, my father was from Atlantic City, and Daddy used to go to bars because there were other soldiers in the bars, and those were the only people that Daddy could talk to. And the one thing that I want to say is my dad was he was a little guy. He was like 5'6.5" and weighed about 120 pounds or 25 pounds wet. It's like I'm just amazed that he managed to get off the U-boat. For those that don't know, he was in the fourth wave off the U-boats on Omaha Beach. He was a combat medic in Normandy, and he was gone 4.5 years. And he left the war with 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Silver Stars, and 2 bronze medals. Daddy was kick butt. But what I want to say is that, he had nobody to talk to. And then regarding, a couple of you have heard the story, he went to the bank to get a loan to open a bar in Atlantic City, and they said, you have no collateral, and Daddy had his medals, and he said, I just came back from 4.5 years of fighting, I need a loan, and they wouldn't give it to him. And then my father had the chutzpah, in Yiddish, Daddy had the chutzpah to walk into the mayor of Atlantic City's office, barged in. The woman said, who are you? And he said, I'm Staff Sergeant Bernie Friedenberg. I need to talk to the mayor. Do you have an appointment? Daddy said, no, and walked right past her and walked right into the mayor's office and put all his medals down on the mayor's desk. And the mayor said, who are you? And Daddy said, I'm Staff Sergeant Bernie Friedenberg. I just fought for 4.5 years, and I need a loan, and I need you, Mr. Mayor, to co-sign it because First National Bank won't give me money. And the mayor said, let's go, Sergeant. And the mayor of Atlantic City, Mayor Altman, took Daddy to the bank and co-signed a loan for Daddy to open his first business. But the thing that I wanted to share, I know my father was amazing. Oh my God. Anyway, he was, they say spiritually that you choose your parents. Well, I did good, not great with husbands, but great with parents. So the other thing I want to say is that Daddy was small, but he was a boxer, a lightweight boxer. And my father was really pissed off at other soldiers that were disparaging Black soldiers. And my father would beat them up. Anybody that said anything mean to a Black soldier, Daddy would beat the hell out of them. And the other thing, there was one gay guy named Arthur, and they would be really mean to Arthur too. And Daddy would beat them up too if they were mean to Arthur. And the thing that breaks my heart from my reading is that here these Black soldiers came home from the war, and they were not honored like the white soldiers. It was really bad. They were not allowed in hotels and restaurants. There was segregation going on, and these guys had just come back from fighting. And when I read some of the stories, and I've heard some of them, it just makes me cry. It's just so unfair. And they also didn't get the medals that they should have gotten, some of the Black soldiers. So
Susan, in this book by David Nassau, he covers an awful lot of that, and you'll enjoy well, maybe not enjoy, but you'll be interested in hearing what he has to say about the treatment of the black soldiers, particularly as it applied to the GI Bill, because most of them were denied benefits to the GI Bill.
Can you email me that book, the name
Sure.
of it?
Sure.
Okay, and just
David Nassau, Wounded Generation. Wounded Generation.
just
Listen, Todd, should we go and talk a little bit about our trip?
Yes.
Because I know we've got quite a few people on from the trip that volunteered to be on. And, we want to respect the time they have put into for tonight. I'm going to ask Ray Brendel to start, if we could. If we could find Ray and unmute him. There he is. I saw him. Oops, now I lost him. I saw your name, Ray. I know you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There you are. Thank you,
All
Ray.
right. How you doing?
Excellent, Ray. Ray, it was such a pleasure to get to know you in person on the trip.
Yeah, it was a fun trip. It was a great trip.
Ray and I were the Kane brothers. As some of you might know, I'm getting a hip replacement here in a few weeks. So I was talked into using a cane by my wife. And thank God I did, because it really helped a lot. And I think Ray and I got 2 or 3 free beers out of having canes.
Hey, whatever it takes.
Ray.
Yes, sir.
Favorite moment during the trip?
Well, there was a couple special moments for me personally. Of course, the whole trip, getting to see all the battlefields and museums, that was great. But I had a grand uncle this happened before I was born. My grandfather's brother was killed in the Battle of the Bulge. And growing up, my father, who was only 9 years old when his uncle was killed, would talk about his uncle. He knew him as Uncle Henry. His name was actually John Henry Brendel. And so I heard about Uncle Henry growing up, and I knew he was killed at the Battle of the Bulge, and I knew that he was buried in Europe, like tens of thousands of other American GIs. He was buried over there. And through the internet a couple years ago, I was able to learn that he was buried at the cemetery in the Netherlands. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Todd and Glenn. The original itinerary I saw for this trip several months ago when I first signed up did not have that cemetery on it. Now, I may be mistaken about that.
I think it did. Todd?
Yeah, it did.
Was it on there? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't, for whatever reason, maybe I read the itinerary wrong. I was not expecting to go to that particular cemetery. So, of course, when, I found out we were actually going there, we were able to locate his grave. And that in and of itself was a great honor for me. But those of you that are on a trip will remember the superintendent of the cemetery knew that there was a family member visiting one of the graves, and he come out and he asked me if he could perform a ceremony, which of course I said, yeah, that would be great. And he went back into his little room, and I was a couple of minutes, Todd and I were there by ourselves with the grave. And after he came back, he had sand from Omaha Beach, which he rubbed on the headstone. Now, the headstones, as you can see there, are all marble, white marble of some sort.
Right.
And the names are etched in there, but it's really hard to read the names.
Are you guys seeing this?
Yes.
Okay, let this play for a minute or so, Ray.
Okay.
Look at that.
Wow.
As the sand is put on from Omaha Beach, look how that jumps out. Forgive my photography.
Yes, it was quite a special moment. And you could see from the other headstones in the background how my uncle's name stands out because of the sand that he rubbed on the headstone there. And then if the video keeps playing, you'll see he plants two flags, an American flag and a flag of the Netherlands. And also, I should say, I think most of you know me. I myself am a veteran of the United States Army. So there he is planting the flags. And I don't know, does this go all the way, Glenn?
I forget how far this goes. It only has a few more seconds on what I took.
Well,
others may have more.
Yeah. Right after this, they played taps.
Yeah.
And from one soldier to another, I got to salute my uncle. And even now, I'm getting a little emotional. It really got me, as it did most of my fellow travelers, that, you know, they all hugged me. And it was quite a special moment for me personally. And again, this is a man I had never met. He was killed 11 years before I was even born. But of course, his name lived in our family. So I was quite honored that I got to go visit his grave and pay my respects.
The other element of this that I have to mention is the incredible respect that the Dutch, the Belgians, if that's the right word, pay to our veterans. And to us just showing up. I mean, you know, 2 generations removed from that generation. Was just amazing to me. And there were other incidents like that we could discuss as well, but they really paid tribute to our fallen, very much so.
Yeah, it was quite a moment, and I greatly appreciated it.
Yeah. Ray, I don't have a video of it or even a photo of it. Someone else might, but the other neat thing that worked out for Ray is we got to go see what is left of his U.S. Army military base in Germany.
Yeah, so 50 years ago, in 1975 and 1976, I told you I'm a veteran, and I was stationed in a little town called Ludwigsburg, just about 5 km north of Stuttgart. And in Ludwigsburg was an old German army base from the war called Flak Kaserne. Of course, after the war, the Americans took it over, and it was eventually dismantled when the Cold War ended in the 90s. But I spent a year and a half there, about just a little less than a year and a half, at Flak Kaserne in Germany. Now, after the Cold War, you know, a lot of these posts were given back to the German government, and in the intervening time, they raised that old post where I was stationed, and they put up apartments and condominiums. But the front gate was left, where we entered. There was a guard shack there, and a little building that still remained, and plus there was a wall with several plaques on it. So even though my barracks and most of the post was gone, the front gate was there, and Todd was gracious enough. We got off the bus, and there it is, Flak Kaserne. By the way, I think most of us know what flak, anti-aircraft artillery, and Kaserne is the German word for barracks. So this was a military post specifically to shoot down airplanes for the Germans. Then the Americans took it over, and that's where I was for a year and a half. And that was, again, a very special moment for me. So, you know, the trip really wasn't about me, but I got to have a couple of very special moments. So thank you, Todd and Glenn. It was great. Thank you. And to all my fellow travelers, thank you for sharing with me those special moments for me.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. Yeah, that moment at the Margraten Cemetery was goosebump worthy.
Yeah, it got me. It got me.
I think it got all of us, Ray. Yeah. So I asked Becky Nyron, I'm sorry, Becky, and Dana, her mother, to unmute, which they have. Can you say hello?
Hello. Hi.
So I think I know what your special moment might be, but tell us a little bit. Tell me if I got it right. What was your special moment on this trip?
Well, prior to the travel, Glenn had asked those of us who had military members to give him their stories. And we did that. Becky and I did that for my uncle, my dad's youngest brother, who had landed at Utah Beach. And we were able to, because of the information that Glenn had to research, we were able to retrace his steps. And for me, that was very meaningful.
And I guess what I'm trying to refer to, I'm trying to bring up the picture I thought I had put aside here, was the connection we made.
Was that the Dead Man's Corner, Glenn?
Yes, Dead Man's Corner.
Yes.
Do you have a picture of that by chance, Becky? Because I'm having a hard time finding the one that I.
Well, I do if I could, if I knew how to put it up there.
Well, we can give you the ability to share, can't we, Todd?
Can I hold it up? Can I hold it up on my phone?
Yeah.
Oh. So this is a location. Where was that, Glenn? Somewhere in Belgium.
No, in Normandy. In Normandy.
Oh, in Normandy. Okay. It all runs together. It all ran together after the third day. So, but Uncle Emery was with a company of the 70th Tank Battalion. And do you want me to read what it said outside of this museum?
Sure, go ahead.
So now remember, he was with a company of the 70th Tank Battalion, but this says D Company of the 70th Tank Battalion, equipped with an M5A1 Stuart light tank, landed at Utah Beach on D-Day with the mission of linking up with the 101st Airborne Division. On 7 June, the tanks arrived as reinforcements. The lead tank, Stuart D-12, was destroyed in front of this house and part of its crew incinerated. The tank remained there for days with the dead commander hanging from the turret, and the soldiers began referring to this location as the corner with the dead man, soon shortened to Dead Man's Corner. And this is a picture of the tank. Luckily, the dead man had been removed by that time.
Yeah. So just to repeat it and make it and emphasize this, boy, I'm sorry, Becky, your
Uncle Emery Drescher.
Emery Dresser, member of the 70th Tank Battalion, and his story is a fascinating one because the 70th Tank Battalion was an independent tank battalion that was attached to various divisions during the war, and he was at first attached to the Big Red One, the 1st Division, which landed in North Africa. So he fought in North Africa with that 1st Division. Then they landed in Sicily. So he fought in Sicily with the Big Red One through the 6-week campaign in Sicily. The 1st Division is withdrawn, as is the 70th Tank Battalion, to England, where they trained for the invasion of Normandy. Somehow they switched the 70th Tank Battalion to be with the 4th Division, which was the assault division on Utah Beach, where he lands on Utah Beach, and then he fights his way through the end of the war, basically. But this Dead Man's Corner, which we knew we were going to visit, but I knew nothing about, is 4 or 5 miles inland from Utah Beach. And at this corner, there is a house still there. It's now a museum. And that tank, the remains of that tank are still out front. There it is. Thank you, Todd. And that tank, which is a light tank, I didn't even know they still had those on D-Day because they were outdated by far. That's not the M1 Sherman. That's the Stuart tank, which Rick Atkinson said had the combat power of a coffee can. But anyway, that company of Stuart tanks passes Dead Man's Corner. There's a battle, and that tank is destroyed, and all the men killed. And one of the men, probably the tank commander, was left in the turn of the tank, half hanging out of the opening. And he was there for 2 or 3 days as the battle wore on, and people just kept going past him. And that's how it came to be known as Dead Man's Corner. And so we speculate that Dana's uncle, Emery, was also a Dead Man's Corner. He was in the same tank battalion, just a different company, and had to drive by that exact same spot, if not once, several times. So, at least in my mind, I like these kind of things. It was an interesting connection to make.
After all that, I need to report that he made it home safely and lived to be 101 and passed away in 2019.
Quite a life.
Wow.
Nice long life. Yes. Yes. And he left behind a pretty good record of his experiences in the war. Right. Not too many men fought in those 3 campaigns, right? The North Africa, Sicily, and then the European campaign. That's pretty unusual.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Todd, I'm going to let you pick. Who should we ask next of our travelers to and traveler begging to do this? You want to wave your hand, jump up and down? What would you like to do?
I had such a wonderful time on this trip with our travelers, and that's always the fun for me is getting to know our travelers. I literally discovered one of our travelers was my second cousin once removed, and I mean that seriously. We discovered that just in conversation. Oh yeah, we're cousins.
Bob?
And then no, not Bob. Bob's my brother.
Oh,
Bob Lochner, he was my roommate. Never knew the guy except when I met him on the trip, and we had a great time together. Bob, I don't know if you have a memorable event that you'd want to share. He no longer talks to me. I don't know why. So let's go to Dwayne Kelly. Dwayne.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're now my new brother because Bob Lochner is just ignoring me.
All right, bro. No, I think the ceremony at Margraten with Ray's uncle was a highlight for me and very, I don't know, just very meaningful to be able to salute that fallen soldier during the plane attacks was very meaningful. Being able to tell my family stories on the bus when we were headed towards Eindhoven was real meaningful for me as well. Visiting Omaha Beach, where my uncle Dave landed with the 28th Division in July of '44, and telling his story, especially since he was a POW. Luxembourg, visiting the Luxembourg Cemetery was nostalgic because I had taken my dad there in 1977 when I was stationed in Stuttgart, and he was over for a visit. So just reliving those moments since he's long passed. And just the camaraderie of everybody and getting to know everybody. And I think that was, we were family. We became a family. I think Tim might have mentioned that in his summary. And anyways, I think that's probably the highlights for me.
Thank you, Dwayne.
And also learning that you like a lot of beer.
Now, wait a second. Let's show those pictures of Dwayne at the, what was that? The
I forgot.
Yeah.
The Hofbrauhaus.
The
Hofbrauhaus. I've never seen a glass of beer that big.
So just going back to Becky and Dana, here is Dana's uncle Emery, taken, I think this was at Liberation of Paris.
Yes, yes.
Isn't that great? This is still from a color footage of the Liberation of Paris.
Which is it's just amazing. This comes from a famous film producer, George. Todd, help me, George
Stevens.
Stevens. Yes, yes. Who did miles and miles of this kind of footage. So the fact that we're able to pick out Dana's uncle is amazing.
And
Yeah.
he was the one on the left, and I think we discovered that as a family somehow on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like we didn't even know it existed.
Amazing.
Someone mentioned Tim Little. Tim, I thought I saw you on earlier. If we could find Tim and unmute Tim.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to say the favorite part of my trip was watching Todd and Bob bond together. No, all kidding aside. No, I'd have to say I agree with Dwayne. The ceremony at Margraten Cemetery with Ray's Uncle Henry, that I've probably shown that video at least a dozen times since I've been home to different friends and of mine, in about the Omaha Beach sand being rubbed across his uncle's headstone. I thought that was very touching. Also, I'd have to say Bastogne was
just seeing everything every day was an adventure.
Yeah, probably from the Band of Brothers, which I've probably seen 3 times over the last 20 years, being in the Ardennes forest and just visualizing with that hologram. They had the app that you could download, and there were actual soldiers. You put your phone up and you could see the actual soldiers in foxholes, and that was very, very interesting to me. And just visualizing and thinking about these trees exploding from the artillery, and then going down and seeing the church and the farmhouse with the bullet hole still in it. That I keep going back to that, and also the ceremony with Ray's uncle. That, and obviously the whole trip was just great. I just like I said in my summary, I thought everybody got along well, and I thought all the stories that were told by Dwayne and Becky, and I thought that was great. My brother and I had the back of the bus. That was our lair, and just to sprawl out. And I just thought it was just great. I mean, Todd, Glenn, Tony, they did a great job, just a fantastic job. And someone that was not part of the trip, the docent, Henri, I think his name was, at the Bastogne Museum, which I thought was fascinating, the Bastogne Museum. I thought the depiction of the wax figures and all the behind glass, I thought it was just as lifelike as you could make it. The one I remember, they had the wind blowing, and what it was like being dug in those foxholes, just, and those guys surviving that is just amazing. So those are my memories of the trip.
Thank you, Tim.
I will chime in just to say, I don't have a lot of great memories, but one of them was what you refer to, Tim, the foxholes at Bois Jacques outside of Bastogne, because this is where Easy Company from the Banner Brothers, this is where they were dug in during the siege of Bastogne, and the foxholes are still there. I mean, a lot of them are still there. They've been eroded and worn down, but you could stand exactly where they stood. And since the last time we visited there, which is in 2018, some organization has come in and developed this great kind of virtual reality where you could go on your phone and hold it up and kind of scan around and look. It'll show you what it looked like in December 1944. So, this is a scene of me that I took of the foxhole, and then this is what it looks like when you look at through the VR glasses. It's really, really cool. Really, really well done.
Well, I just further say that there were at least 3 or 4 locations that we visited where the 101st Airborne Easy Company was. And what's interesting about it is those locations are pretty much preserved just as they were 80 years ago. The landing field, the drop zone in the Netherlands was extra special. It's still farmland, and it looks pretty much like it did 80 years ago. We were able to visit a private museum there, where the fellow that developed the private museum was 5 or 6 years old and has memories of the landing, and he's done an incredible job in preserving a lot of artifacts from that museum. The woods that Todd mentioned overlooking Foy are just like you're standing in the middle of the Band of Brothers movie watching it, still. I can't remember the other locations, the church there in Foy, etc. Yeah. Oh, Todd, tell them about this.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite moments. We met 2 older people, one 86 years old, the other 90. The 86-year-old grew up in this red brick house right behind Becky. That's a great shot of Becky. And he grew up in that house. He was 5 or 6 years old when the 101st Airborne Division landed there for Operation Market Garden on September 17, 1944. He continues to live in the house today. And he welcomes these strangers from the United States. And he doesn't speak English, but he could speak through his grandson and his daughter. And he has all these things collected that he's collected from the farmland over the years, one of which is a parachute. This is an actual parachute from the 101st Airborne Division that landed there in Holland or Netherlands in Market Garden. And I think it was very touching. His one story was he came into his kitchen and there was on the kitchen table a 101st Airborne soldier who had been shot in the throat. And he was bleeding. He was okay. He would survive. But he said at one point the soldier looks over. You can imagine being a 5-year-old kid and seeing this bleeding soldier on your kitchen table. And the soldier looks over at the boy, reaches down in his pack and pulls out a chocolate and gives it to the boy, even though, he's in great distress. And the man just said, I mean, to him, it was the most generous, beautiful, wonderful thing anybody has ever done in his life. And he said he's loved America ever since.
Yeah. And he's done a wonderful job of preserving the artifacts and memories there of the 101st Airborne. How about one other? There's a couple of questions in the chat we might want to address, but let's ask our favorite couple, Jerry and Betty. I think I unmuted you a bit ago. If you're still unmuted, what were your favorite memories?
Every single day was a total adventure. And to have Tony as our guide, the most warmest guy of a guide that we could ever have. He was so warm and made sure that we got all the information that we asked. He came up with all the answers that we wanted, and totally amazing. We really loved Portsmouth, seeing the Mary Rose and the Victory ships. We truly loved that. And of course, all the American cemeteries is the top of our list also. And just to have everyone on the bus, and of course, Omaha Beach and the bunkers. And I would take pictures of my wife just about everywhere we went, and to preserve these memories. This is what it's all about, the warmth and the camaraderie of all of us together. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone. It's just totally amazing. Yeah. This is the Mary Rose that we saw, and absolutely wonderful how they preserved it. And to spend so many hours in each of these museums, we weren't rushed at all.
We spent a lot of time in that museum.
Yes, we did.
We really did.
So-
And so every inch of it.
So for those of you who are not English history nuts like me and others, but The Mary Rose was Henry VIII's flagship, and it sank offshore of Portsmouth in what's called the Solent in 1548. Maybe just have that off by a year or two. Was lost for whatever, 300 years or so. They identified it. And in 1982, if I have that right, they actually were able to raise this portion of the ship that was still, that had survived. This was the portion of the ship that was, it was on its side and was laying in the mud of the ocean or the water there. And it was preserved because of the so cold and the special conditions of the mud didn't, allow the erosion of the wood. And this is just the superstructure of the ship, which is huge, that they show. And then in the galleries behind it, there must be thousands of articles of, artifacts that they found. So as much as I'm a World War II nut, I'm an English history nut. So this was one of the non-World War II sites that we got to see at Portsmouth Historical Navy Yard there. And there was a lot of World War II stuff there too. So, Jerry and Betty, thank you. Betty, there is a picture I want to show of you if I can get it up here again. Is this it? No, that's not it. Just give me a minute because Jerry mentioned, here we are. Let me show this picture of Betty. Also at a very neat historical site. Are you seeing it or do I need to share still? Here we are.
Oh, yes, yes.
That's at, if I can get the pronunciation right, Longueuil-sur-Mer. Any French speakers want to correct me? It's the German batteries just behind the beaches. It's actually between Omaha Beach and the British beaches. It stands about, there's 4 of these that stand back about, 300 yards, 250 yards from the shore. And these 4 batteries were taken out by British and American, I think, but mostly British naval gunfire on the morning of D-Day. And they've preserved these very, very well over time. Shortly after this picture was taken, Betty pulled a hand grenade out of her purse and threw it in the back there. She just wanted to make sure it was taken out completely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Jerry. Oh, yeah. So, what time we got here, Todd? 8:23. You got any closers, Todd?
Paul Little, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit more humorous with everybody as to my particular situation. And that is, we were in Heidelberg, and I was in a bakery. Dwayne probably will remember this. And I wanted to tell the ladies in the bakery how wonderful the food was. I mean, the baked goods were. So I said, this is to die for. So I got my phone out and translated it into German. And when the ladies, when I said, I can't remember what it was in German, the one lady looked at me. She had, in her German finery, she looked at me like she was going to kill me, because she probably thought I thought she was trying to poison me. And then Dwayne started laughing. He was over in the corner there, and he knows German from being over there. And I put my head on my head like this. And said, oh my God, I didn't realize it. But luckily the baker was there, and he knew English. And so I said, we have this expression in America, to die for. And it means you want something so bad that, you'll actually kill to get it. And then I think he relayed that to the ladies, but I was somewhat embarrassed by that.
That stressed me out, Paul. I thought you were going to cause an international incident.
That and the food, I'll never eat another Kraft cheese sandwich again. Okay, when we were in, I think it was by you, Glenn. I think I was at the table with you.
Oh.
I had a Monsieur crepe, and it was like a cheese sandwich. It was like no cheese sandwich I ever had in my life. It was delicious, fabulous. Everything, all the food was fabulous over there. Doesn't everybody agree?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good.
Chuck, what's your
Yeah,
favorite?
I like to get back to the Pacific since I served both the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Sure.
We left Mayport, I think June 15th. By the time we got over to Vietnam, it was like the last of July. We had gone down through the Panama Canal, up to San Diego. We stopped there for a couple days. Pearl Harbor. We only steamed one boiler. We wouldn't go over 10 knots. Midway Atoll. I mean, my gosh, if 1/2 degree of missing the navigation, you'd miss this place. It wasn't big. Then we went to Guam, refueled again. Then we finally got to the Philippines. Well, first day there is when the Forrestal had that big fire. I think they lost 130 men that day. It was bad. I thought this thing blows up, it's going to take my Ricky Dink destroyer with it. But well, the bad part of it, even worse, we picked up, I think, 6 guys who were dead. They were floating around in the water. And that was pretty tough. And I think, well, it couldn't get any worse, right? Well, 2 months later, 2 of our guys, well, bought the farm, expired, whatever expression you want to use. And the one was only 20 years old. So there you go. Oh, well, Uncle Sam didn't get me killed, so I guess I should be lucky, right, Todd? That's about it. But we had a great time over there. Really had a nice trip.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. And it was great having you along.
Thank you.
Well, do we want to wind up with any other World War II question, Todd? We got 3 minutes. We could probably discuss a lot in 3 minutes.
Oh, Barb Smith. Barb.
Thank you, friends. Thank you to our World War II veterans here, Mr. Grabiner and Mr. Freeberg. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your service. Our participants, as usual, Veterans Breakfast Club, always so appreciative. I just wanted to briefly say that while you were in Europe, Bob and I went to VBC sponsored events. We saw Todd in Youngstown before he left for his trip. Then we went to the 9/11 memorial service with the Italian descendants from the POW film. Then we went to the John Brown Museum in Baltimore. We took a 6-hour cruise there, all because of VBC programs. Then we drove up to Philadelphia and we got to meet Susan Friedenberg. And it was such a pleasure to see this young woman speaking of her daddy and her mommy, just like she does online here. And it was such an experience. Not only did we see the memorial dedicated to her father in Atlantic City, she first drove us to a little store to purchase a little mini sample of Jack Daniels, and we drove to the cemetery where her parents are resting peacefully, and she poured Jack Daniels on her dad's grave, which was so special. Beautiful monuments in their honor. And then she drove us to Atlantic City to see the monument dedicated to her father. And it was so special. When we first arrived, a gentleman was walking past, and I think she may have said, "Oh, this is my daddy. This is my daddy." And he says, "Oh, I walk past this monument every day going to the mosque." Well, 5 times a day or however many times he goes. And so for him to know that this is the daughter of the statue, it was really special. So we took pictures there. I sang a couple songs, and then she presented us with this fabulous book. This is the book of her father. It's entitled Of Being Numerous, World War II as I Saw It. And I must say, if anybody has an opportunity to read this book, it is about so special hearing his stories as if you're sitting around the table with him. That each chapter is about 2 to 3 pages long. They're all wonderful chapters. And at the end of the book, there's even endnotes, including the definition of the John W. Brown ship that we were just on. It was just so special to see the person that was in the book, in the monument. at the gravesite, all in just a few hours, just so special. And then we went through her beautiful, immaculate home where she has a shrine dedicated to her parents with all these lovely pictures. And it was just so special. And it's all because of Veterans Breakfast Club yet again, that we get to meet all these special people that participate on Zoom, online. So thank you so much, everybody from Veterans Breakfast Club, and Susan and your dad and all these wonderful veterans. Thank you.
Yep.
Barb, thank you. What a wonderful way to, I think, close the show. Todd, you're good with winding things up? Yeah.
Wait,
Yes, absolutely.
Wait, I have one, if I may, one more. This book on Hitler, speaking about the European theater, it is entitled The Psychopathic God, Adolf Hitler. If you have an opportunity to read this, this is probably our favorite book on Hitler. It is so comprehensive. It's amazing. It's amazing. And we even called Mr. Kensinger and spoke to him about it. So thank you all. Thank you.
Well, a special thank you to Russ and to Art. Thank you so very much. It's a great honor to have both of you on the program. And please come back as often as you can. Feel free to be here any night that we're on.
I was going to say one quick thing. I want to thank Glenn and Todd. That goes without saying, but Glenn, you did a great job on that trip. Your knowledge of World War II is above and beyond anything that I'm even familiar with, remotely familiar with. So thank you guys both for a great trip.
Becky, you are absolutely right. I mean, I knew that Glenn knew a lot about World War II. I had no idea the depth and breadth of that knowledge. That was a stunning thing for me, just to sit back and hear Glenn narrate kind of what we were seeing and provide us with the larger historical context. I thought he was absolutely fantastic.
And I finally watched the Band of Brothers from beginning to end.
I'm blushing now. So I'll promote our program next week, right? This is the book Propaganda Girls by Lisa Rogak, if I have that pronunciation right. Get back to sort of some of our basic programming. The story of four women in World War II who are all part of the OSS, the predecessor to the CIA. I was going to say four unknown women. One of them is actually quite known. Her name is Marlene Dietrich. It's an excellent book, and she'll be on next Thursday night to talk about these four women. We don't get a chance to talk about women in World War II very often, and this will be one night that we do.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Todd. Good night, everybody. Good night, Paul.
Good night.